Hi there. Let's talk about picture books. First one I'm going to share and review today is Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. This book was written by Judy Barrett, and it's funny, on the cover it doesn't say illustrated, it says drawn by Ron Barrett, whom I learned through some research was the author's ex-husband at the time when they made this book. This is a fictional story, and it has an interesting structure. It's a story within a story. So it starts off with a grandfather talking to his children, and he tells them the story of this town where they get food through the weather, through the rain and the wind. That's how the town gets their food. But then the weather goes crazy and everyone has to leave the town. And then you end again with the grandfather and the grandchildren. I always enjoy stories like that, and movies like that too, where it's one character telling a story within the story. As far as the art goes, the style is a line art style. So a lot of pen and ink, no shading, just that style where the lines get closer together and there's different kind of hash marks when you need the color to be more saturated. In the beginning, where it's just the grandfather talking to the grandchildren, it's black and white. And then as he goes into the story, that's when the illustrator adds the color. And then it ends with almost black and white again. Similar to The Wizard of Oz, how when she's in Kansas, it's black and white, but then Oz is in color, and then she ends back in Kansas. The illustrator gave it a huge amount of detail. As you look at each page, every little townsperson, every little shop window is very meticulous. He said that he was trying to make this book as realistic as possible, and it's just very engaging because of that. I chose this book because I can remember my elementary school librarian reading this to me, and I marked a specific page. I specifically remember this is a page where a pancake lands on top of the school and they had to cancel school for the day, and we had this huge discussion about how great it would be if a pancake landed on top of our school and we had to cancel school for the day. And our imaginations just ran wild with what if the weather was food, the advantages, the disadvantages of that. It's a great story. Not one that I've used in the classroom for a while, but just a story that I personally really enjoy. I gave this book 4 stars because, as I've already said, it has a great story structure. It's very engaging, quality, very detailed, meticulous illustrations. I didn't give it 5 stars because I don't feel like there's a ton of depth here. There's nothing that's really inspiring us to be better or giving us hope. It's just a fun story. So a great story, but in my opinion, not really worthy of 5 stars. The next book that I want to talk to you about today is one that I have used in the classroom quite a lot. This is called Martin's Big Words. It's written by Doreen Rappaport and illustrated by Brian Collier. This is a nonfiction text about Martin Luther King Jr. It gives an overview of his life, some details from his life beginning to end. And on each page, there's a quote from him. The quote is usually in big, bold, different colored text from the rest. And that's really just one example of the way the layout of the page and the illustrations add to what this book is saying. Every single detail of this book seems to be extremely well thought out and unique. The first really big, noticeable, different thing about this book is the cover. If you look, there's no title on the cover of this book. It is just a full illustration of Martin Luther King. You can see it has won several awards. It got the Caldecott Award, the Coretta Scott King Award, and this one has another New York Times Best Illustrated Children's Book Award. This was also from our school library, so we've got a barcode and our little library tag here. Not gonna lie, those things kind of hurt my heart because I feel like that's not what the people who published this book wanted it to look like. They wanted it to be this solid picture of Martin Luther King. And then when you turn to the cover page, again, well thought out and intentional. After this stained glass window page, you finally see the title, Martin's Big Words, and it's huge. It's stretching across the entire book. Again, adding to that idea that his words were big and important. So the illustration style is collage and watercolor. The collage leaves us with a lot of kind of jagged edges and unfinished looks throughout the story. There's some pages on this book that give you a really intense feeling, and that is 100% intentional, especially the last page where it talks about the end of Martin Luther King Jr.'s life. It's an intense page. There's a lot of black on the page. He's looking through these slits in the window. His face is very intense. It makes you feel upset when you look at it, and it matches the tone of the words perfectly. The words which are saying, hey, Miss Sandra, the words which are telling us what happened at the end of Martin Luther King Jr.'s life. Because of all the intentionality with the illustrations here, and I mean, personally, I just love Martin Luther King Jr. He's one of my favorite historical people to teach about. I definitely give this book 5 stars. It is one that you are going to want to have on your shelf. I do have one edit for this book. If I could just give one suggestion, it seems to end on kind of a down note, and I wish they had added one more page at the end with an inspiring quote from him, because it says the very last illustration talks about how he died, and then on the very next page it just says, and his words are still with us today. When I've shared it with children before, it kind of leaves them with that feeling of sadness. And I wish they had just added one more quote from Martin Luther King to kind of lift us up a little at the end. So 5 stars, but there is one thing, that's my only suggestion. But like I said, a great book and a very unique book, and definitely worthy of the Caldecott. Definitely a lot of thought went into illustrating and putting every part of this book together. Thank you.